The Forbidden Woman. The galaxy had many legends, but none as chilling as the woman with 3 swords in her chest. She was not dead, not alive. She was trapped in a crystal tomb floating on a forgotten moon. The swords were not normal weapons. They glowed with strange power and burned with an energy older than any empire. Every alien who tried to touch them died in seconds, their bodies turned to ash before their screams could end. For centuries, her tomb was guarded not to protect her but to keep others away. The aliens believed she was cursed. They believed she carried a punishment from the old gods. But still curious ones came warriors, kings, priests, all tried to pull the swords. None survived, and so her story became a warning. Do not touch what the gods have sealed. Yet deep inside the tomb, her eyes remained closed, but her heart still beat slow like thunder under stone. Her long hair floated around her face inside the crystal, her skin pale and untouched by time. The 3 swords pierced her chest clean, each glowing a different color, red, blue, and silver. No one understood why she lived on. No one understood why the swords fed on her instead of killing her. But she waited. One day, a small ship landed on the moon. It was not an alien empire ship nor a priest's craft. It was a human vessel marked with scratches from old battles carrying only one man inside. His name was Daniel, a wanderer soldier and explorer who had no home left. He had heard rumors of the cursed tomb, but unlike the others, he did not fear. He had seen too much in his short life to be scared of old legends. When he stepped onto the cold surface of the moon, his boots sank into gray dust that had not been touched for centuries. He looked at the broken statues around the tomb, tall figures carved in alien stone with faces covered by cracks and shadows. To Daniel, it felt like walking into the Griar, Aviard of gods. The entrance to the tomb was open. No guard, no defense, only silence. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with energy like electricity before a storm. His light flickered, but he kept walking down the long corridor until he reached the crystal chamber. And there he saw her. Daniel stopped. His breath caught in his throat. She was beautiful in a haunting way, like a statue made of sorrow. The 3 swords pierced her chest, but she did not bleed. Her lips slightly parted as if she was whispering in a dream. The crystal glow lit her face like moonlight. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something stir inside him, a pull stronger than fear. He stepped closer, pressing his hand against the crystal. The energy did not burn him. That was the first sign he was different. Behind him, voices echoed. Small alien drones floated near the entrance recording him. From across the stars, many watched. Aliens who had failed before their descendants. Their leaders all tuned in through the drones. They whispered he would die like the others. No one could touch the swords. No one. But Daniel did not listen. His eyes locked on the woman, and he felt her heartbeat through the crystal, slow and heavy. It matched his own heart like 2 drums in the same rhythm. He realized she was not dead, not cursed, but waiting. He did not know why, but he felt she was waiting for him. He placed his palm against the crystal again and spoke softly. I do not know who you are, but you do not deserve to sleep like this. The crystal trembled under his hand as if it heard his words. A faint crack spread across the surface, glowing lines running outward like veins of light. Gasps rose from the alien watchers across the galaxy. Never had the crystal reacted to anyone. Daniel stepped back, surprised. The woman's eyes moved under her closed lids, a single tear slipping down though she still slept. He knew then he could not walk away. The swords were killing her slowly, feeding on her, and he could feel her pain like it was inside his own chest. The aliens watching murmured in fear, some demanded he be stopped. But the drones only recorded. No one dared to enter the chamber, no one dared to interrupt. Daniel clenched his fists. He had been through wars, he had lost friends, he had lost worlds. And yet here in this silent tomb he felt his purpose more than ever. If every alien failed, it only made him more certain to try. He whispered to himself, maybe this is why I survived everything before to be here to do this. He reached forward again. The crystal cracked more with each step he took closer to the woman. The glow of the swords pulsed brighter as if warning him, but he did not stop. and when he finally pressed his hand near the hilt of the first sword, the entire tomb shook like the roar of a giant beast. Dust fell from the ceiling, the statues outside cracked further, the energy stormed around him. Aliens across the galaxy stared in horror and awe. For the first time in centuries, a human was about to touch the forbidden swords, and the universe held its breath, the human's choice. The crystal chamber still shook as Daniel's hand rested near the hilt of the first sword. The glow of the red blade flared like fire, warning him to stop. Energy crackled in the air, sharp like lightning in a storm. But Daniel did not step back. He felt the pull not from the sword itself, but from the woman trapped by it. Her eyes were still closed, but her lips moved just slightly. A whisper escaped, though no sound should have carried through the crystal. One word brushed his ears. Please. The word cut deeper than any blade. He knew she was egging not for death, but for release. Across the galaxy, thousands of alien leaders watched through the drones. Some laughed, saying the human would burn within seconds. Others were silent, remembering how their ancestors died trying. None of them believed he could succeed, and yet none of them could turn away from the sight. Daniel breathed, slow, steady. He reached and wrapped his hand around the hilt of the red sword. The metal was warm like flesh, alive with a heartbeat of its own. The moment he touched it, visions crashed into his mind. He saw deserts, burning oceans, boiling skies filled with screaming battles. He saw creatures not human, not alien, wielding the swords with bloody hands. He felt their deaths, each one faster than the last. All of them failed. The sword wanted him to fail too. His knees buckled under the weight of the visions. His teeth clenched, but he did not let go. The sword whispered into his mind, promising power if he gave up his body, promising mercy if he released it. But Daniel had lived through worse temptations in the wars of Earth. He whispered back through gritted teeth, "No." The tomb roared, the sword screamed like metal dragged across stone. And then, with a surge of strength, Daniel pulled. The sword resisted, fighting like a living beast, but slowly, inch by inch, it slid free of her chest. The red glow burst into flames, swirling around him like a storm. The chamber lit so bright the drones nearly shattered. And then suddenly, silence. Daniel gasped, holding the sword in his hand. It no longer fought him. It pulsed gently like a wild animal finally tamed. He looked up and froze. The woman's eyes had opened. They were golden bright like twin suns, burning yet soft. Her lips parted a weak breath, leaving her chest. "You," she whispered. Her voice shook the chamber more than the sword had. Aliens across the galaxy cried out in shock. Never had she awakened for anyone. The impossible had happened. A human had pulled the first sword and lived. Daniel stumbled forward, his body heavy as if carrying the weight of entire worlds. He dropped to one knee before her crystal prison, still holding the sword. Her gaze followed him, her eyes filled with tears that glowed faint like starlight. "You should not be here," she said, though her voice was faint. "You will die like the others if you continue." Daniel smiled, bitter, tired, but sure. "I already should have died many times, yet here I am." The crystal around her cracked, further lines spreading across its surface like ice breaking on a lake. Her hand pressed weakly from the inside against the wall of crystal. Daniel mirrored it, pressing his palm against hers, separated by only the thin shell. The sword, still buried inside her, pulsed angrily. One blue, one silver, their light harsh and jealous. They did not want him to succeed. From the shadows of the tomb, movement stirred. Small alien machines skittered closer, watching him with unblinking eyes. Their masters whispered commands across the stars. Capture him, study him, destroy him. But none dared step into the chamber yet. The curse was too feared. Daniel ignored them, his eyes locked only on the woman. "What is your name?" he asked softly. Her lips moved slow. "I was called Ceres," she whispered, her voice cracked with centuries of silence. "Bound by blades of betrayal left as a warning to all who defied the ancient order." Her golden eyes burned with sorrow and rage. You cannot free me. They will kill you. The swords will consume you. Daniel shook his head slowly. Then let them try. The red sword in his hand glowed brighter, almost proud of his words. The aliens watching gasped, realizing the sword accepted him. This had never happened before. One alien elder hissed in fear. If the human can claim one, he may claim them all. Panic rippled through the watchers. Inside the chamber, Ceres trembled, her body weak from centuries of being drained. Her head leaned against the glass, her voice soft. The first sword is the blade of fire. It chooses only those who burn for others, not for themselves. Her eyes locked on his face. You should not have been chosen. You are only human. Daniel laughed, tired but firm. Only human has been enough before. The ground shook again. The silver sword hummed like thunder. The blue blade froze the air with frost. Daniel knew the trial was not over. But he also knew he had made his choice. He would not leave her. He would not stop until the curse was broken. He lifted the red sword high and pointed it toward the ceiling. Its fire spread across the cracks of the crystal, burning away the prison around her inch by inch. Aliens across the galaxy whispered in fear and awe. The legend of centuries had just changed. Not by gods, not by empires, but by the hand of a single human. And the woman once cursed began to believe hope was not a lie. The awakening. The crystal tomb groaned as the cracks spread wider across its glowing surface. Each pulse of the red sword in Daniel's hand shook the chamber with fire. The woman Ceres pressed her trembling hand against the inside wall of the crystal as if she could finally feel warmth after centuries of cold. Her golden eyes flickered alive, but her body still chained to the two swords that remained buried in her chest. One sword of silver shining like ice, one sword of blue glowing like storms, both humming with anger as if alive, refusing to let her go. Daniel's breath came heavy, his muscles ached as if carrying mountains, yet he stood tall, holding the red sword like a torch in the dark. The aliens watching from across the galaxy did not speak, their voices cut off by the shock of what they had seen. The human had not only touched the forbidden sword, he had claimed it. Now the impossible question burned in every mind. Could he pull the second one? The crystal cracked, louder pieces falling like glass rain onto the floor. The glow dimmed and Ceres's voice grew clearer. You should not stay here, human, she whispered. The second sword does not test strength, it tests the soul. Her words trembled with fear, not for herself, but for him. Daniel only tightened his grip on the red sword and shook his head slowly. I have walked through fire already. If my soul breaks, then it was never worth much. Ceres's golden eyes softened, filled with a sorrow he could not fully read. You are strange, she whispered. No alien, no empire, no priest ever dared beyond the first. Yet you speak as if you do not fear death. Daniel looked up at her through the falling crystal dust and smiled, tired but steady. I do not fear death. I fear wasting a chance to do the right thing. The blue sword in her chest flared suddenly, its light filling the chamber like a stormy sea. The wall. Lil's shook as if the tomb itself tried to crush him. From the shadows, alien machines crept closer, thin legs clicking on the stone. Their masters whispered across the stars. Stop him before he takes the second blade. But none dared step beyond the doorway. None dared feel the curse themselves. So the machines only recorded their red eyes fixed on him. Daniel ignored them. He stepped closer to Ceres, his boots crunching broken crystal beneath him. She watched him with wide eyes, her lips parting to speak, but no words came. Only a tear glowing faint on her cheek. When he reached out and placed his hand near the blue sword, the air froze instantly. His breath turned to frost before his lips. His skin burned cold like knives cutting into his flesh. The sword pushed into his mind, flooding it with visions. He saw earth-burning cities drowned in oceans, skies torn open by war. He saw his own failures, mistakes, regrets all twisted into blades of guilt. The sword whispered, You are nothing. You are weak. You cannot save her. You cannot save anyone. The weight of loss crushed him harder than gravity. His knees hit the ground. He screamed, but no sound came, only the echo of his own despair. Ceres slammed her hand against the crystal, her golden eyes glowing fierce. "Fight it, Daniel," she cried, though her voice shook with pain. "They show you lies, twisted truths. They feed on your guilt." Her words pierced through the storm inside his head. Daniel grit his teeth, blood running from his nose. He remembered his fallen comrades' faces of those he lost. The guilt still burned, but instead of crushing him, it gave him strength. He whispered through clenched teeth, "I carry them with me. They are my fire, not my weakness." The blue sword shrieked like thunder, splitting the chamber. The frost shattered, and Daniel roared, pulling with both hands. The sword resisted chains of ice, ending his arms, but he tore through, and with one final surge he ripped the blue blade free. The chamber exploded with light storms of blue lightning flashing across the tomb walls. Daniel collapsed to one knee, the blue sword heavy in his grip. His body shook as if torn apart by both fire and storm, but his eyes remained locked on Ceres. Her body shuddered, weak light spilling from the wounds where the swords had been. She gasped, sucking in a breath of real air for the first time in centuries. Her chest rising and falling, though the silver blade still chained her down. Her golden eyes locked on him and filled with something new. Not sorrow, not fear, but hope. The silver sword glowed brighter, sensing danger, its energy sharp like a predator ready to strike. Daniel rose slowly, both swords in his hands, red fire in one, blue storm in the other. The chamber bent under the weight of their power, and Ceres whispered with shaking voice, "You are not like the rest, Daniel. The curse feared you before you even came." For the first time since the beginning of the legend, the woman bound by swords smiled. It was weak, fragile, yet filled with light. And across the galaxy, the aliens realized a new terror. The human was not only surviving the swords, he was becoming chosen by them, the curse of the swords. The chamber still trembled from the storm of the second blade. Blue lightning danced across broken walls while the red flame from the first sword burned against the shadows. Daniel stood in the center of the ruin, his hands heavy with both weapons. Every muscle screamed with pain, yet his eyes never left the woman in the crystal. Ceres gasped for breath, her body shaking as though her soul had only just remembered life. But the silver sword still pierced her chest, glowing brighter with each heartbeat. It was the last chain and the strongest one. Across the galaxy, voices rose in panic. Alien elders whispered that the human had broken the first two trials and would soon attempt the third. Some demanded fleets be sent to stop him. Others whispered of prophecy of a chosen death worlder who would unmake the curse, but no one moved. Fear chained them tighter than any sword. Inside the tomb, Ceres pressed her weak hand against the cracking crystal. Her golden eyes locked on Daniel, her voice soft yet fierce. "You should not hold them both. No one can carry fire and storm without being consumed." Daniel only smiled faint, his lips cracked from the heat and cold burning through his veins. "I am not no one. I am human." She flinched at the word as if tasting it for the first time. Human. It sounded strange yet strong, like iron wrapped in flame. The silver sword pulsed sharp light, filling the room with a chill that cut like knives. Unlike the others, its glow was calm, almost pure yet deadly. Ceres's voice shook when she spoke again. "The third sword is the blade of truth. It does not break the body or drown the soul. It reveals everything hidden inside, and most who see themselves cannot endure." Her eyes filled with sorrow. "Daniel, if you touch it, you will face not lies, not visions, but the truth you fear most." Daniel's hand tightened around the red and blue hilts. He whispered back, steady, "Then it is time I faced it." He stepped closer, each stride heavy, the floor cracking under his boots. The air grew colder, the silver glow piercing deeper with each step. When he reached out, the chamber fell silent. No flame, no storm, only stillness. The moment his hand brushed the hilt, his chest burned and his mind split open. Visions flooded, but they were not battles or ghosts. They were his own memories. He saw himself as a child, weak, hungry, lost in the ruins of Earth after war. He saw his failures friends. He could not save faces of soldiers who died while he lived. He saw himself walking away from burning cities too tired to fight. The sword whispered with no malice, only truth. You are not strong, you are broken. You carry guilt like chains. You are no savior, only a survivor. Daniel fell to his knees, gasping, the weight heavier than fire and storm combined. Tears burned his eyes as he saw each moment he had buried deep inside, the people who had trusted him, the ones who had died calling his name. The truth was raw, sharp, undeniable. And the sword did not let him look away. Sarah struck her hand against the crystal, her voice breaking. Do not let it destroy you, Daniel. The truth is not punishment. It is a mirror. Accept it, and it cannot hurt you. Her golden eyes glowed fierce. You are not only survivor, you are the one who chooses to stand again. Her words pierced through the storm of guilt. Daniel's shoulders shook, his breath ragged, but he slowly raised his head. Yes, I am broken, he whispered, his voice rough. Yes, I failed. Yes, I lost. But still I am here. He gripped the silver hilt tighter, his arms trembling. I cannot change the past, but I will not let it chain me. My truth is not weakness. It is why I fight. The silver sword screamed with light brighter than suns, the entire tomb shaking. Aliens across the galaxy cried out, shielding their eyes from the glow through. They're drones, Daniel roared, pulling the hilt. The blade resisted sharp chains of light wrapping around his arms, tearing into his skin. But he kept pulling, blood dripping from his hands. And with one last cry, he ripped the silver sword free. The chamber exploded with brilliance, all three swords now freed, glowing in his hands like firestorm and star. The crystal prison shattered around Sarah's glass shards, scattering like falling stars. She fell forward, weak but alive, her body free of chains for the first time in centuries. Daniel dropped to his knees, swords heavy in his hands, his body burning with their power. Sarah crawled toward him, trembling, her golden eyes filled with tears. You did what no god, no king, no alien could do, she whispered. You freed me, human. But even as she spoke, the tomb rumbled. The power of the swords surged wild, uncontrollable. The walls split the ground, cracked energy storms tearing through the moon itself. Aliens across the stars screamed in fear, for they realized the curse was broken, but a greater danger had been awakened. Daniel's vision blurred, his hands still gripping the three swords. He looked at Saris and whispered faint, This is only the beginning. The trial of the second sword. The ground split open as the tomb shook with unstoppable force. Blue lightning from the stormblade tore through the ceiling while red flames from the fireblade scorched the walls. The silver sword glowed so bright it blinded the alien drones that still recorded from the shadows. Daniel knelt in the middle holding all three weapons, his chest heaving as if he carried the weight of the galaxy itself. Saris crawled to his side, her hands trembling, her golden eyes wide with awe and fear. You freed me, she whispered, her voice breaking. But now the curse is broken. The swords will not rest. They will demand more. Daniel gritted his teeth, sweat dripping down his face. The blades pulsed in his hands, fighting him like wild beasts chained together. Each tried to burn him, freeze him, tear him apart. His body shook, his veins lit with their power, but he refused to let go. Aliens watching across the stars screamed that no being could survive such power. Some called for fleets to move and destroy the moon before the human unleashed more. Others watched silent, knowing they were witnessing history that could not be stopped. The tomb walls collapsed, revealing the sky of the dead moon. Storm clouds swirled above, though there had been no air, no weather for centuries. The swords were rewriting reality itself. Ceres gasped, clutching her chest, the wounds where the blades had pierced her still glowing faint. She whispered, trembling, Daniel, the swords are not only weapons, they are trials. The first tested your strength, the second your soul, the third your truth. But now comes the real battle, the trial of the wielder. Daniel turned his head, his eyes dark with pain but steady. What trial? He asked. Ceres's lips parted, her voice filled with sorrow. You must choose. The swords will obey only if you give them a purpose. If not, they will consume you and destroy everything. They cannot exist in chaos. The ground shook harder cracks racing out across the moon's surface. Aliens in distant fleets panicked as energy storms lit up their sensors. One elder whispered in horror, "If he fails, we all die. The swords will devour stars." Daniel staggered to his feet, holding the blades high. His body felt broken, but his spirit burned stronger. He looked at Ceres, her golden eyes begging him to stop. "You are free now," he said, his voice rough. "But I cannot just let them fall into nothing. Someone must control them." The swords roared an answer firestorm and light twisting around him like e-dragons. Daniel's vision blurred, and suddenly he was no longer standing on the moon. He was pulled into another place, a battlefield carved of memories and dreams. In this trial he faced himself. Another Daniel stood across from him holding the same 3 blades. This double sneered with hatred, his voice a dark echo. "You think you fight for others, but you fight because you crave meaning. Without saving someone, you are nothing." Daniel's hands shook, his heart pounding. The words cut deep because they carried truth. He fought not only for justice, but because without it he was hollow. The double raised the blades, their power screaming, "Take them and be God, or fail and vanish." Daniel roared, charging forward, the fire blade clashing with fire, storm against storm. The battlefield erupted with impossible light tearing through both versions of himself. Every strike showed him memories again, faces he lost, voices he failed to save. He stumbled, but each time he rose again. His double laughed cruel. "You cannot kill me. I am your weakness. I am every doubt you hide." Daniel raised the silver sword, glowing with truth. He whispered through blood and grit, "Yes, you are my weakness, but you are mine, and I accept you." The double froze, his face twisted in rage and then shattered into light. The battlefield collapsed and Daniel's vision snapped back to the moon. He was still standing, the 3 swords glowing calmer in his hands. Ceres stared at him in awe, her lips trembling. "You passed. No one has ever passed the trial of the wielder." But before relief could settle, a shadow fell over them. From orbit, fleets of alien warships surrounded the moon, their weapons charged. They had watched enough. They would not let a human walk away with the swords. The sky lit with fire as the first barrage fell. Daniel turned slowly, his eyes burning with the light of 3 blades. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "Then let us see what a human can really do." The battle for freedom. The moon trembled as alien warships circled above. Their cannons charged, glowing red across the black sky. Thousands of eyes from every corner of the galaxy watched the scene. Some hoping the human would fall, some praying he would not. Inside the ruined tomb, Daniel stood holding all 3 swords. Red fire burned in one hand, blue storm roared in the other, silver truth glowed in the middle. Ceres knelt near him, weak but alive, her golden eyes wide with fear. The first barrage struck. The ground cracked, explosions shaking the airless surface of the dead moon. But the flames from the red sword surged upward, burning away the blasts before they touched. Aliens watching gasped. No shield, no technology, only a human holding swords older than empires. Daniel staggered, but did not fall. He raised the blades higher, his voice rough. "If you want me, then come down yourselves." The fleets hesitated, fear rippling across their commanders. For centuries they had told themselves the swords belonged to no one. But now the human held them, and the woman once cursed was free. If he left alive, the balance of the galaxy would shatter, and yet none dared be the first to land. Ceres struggled to her feet, her voice weak. "Daniel, you cannot fight them all. Even with the swords, their power will eat you alive." Daniel's chest burned, his skin cracked with light leaking through his veins. He knew she was right. Every second holding the 3 swords was killing him, but he smiled faintly, tired yet unshaken. "I do not need to fight them all. I only need to show them what a human can do." The blue sword surged, lightning splitting the sky. A storm born on a world with no air screamed into being. The red sword flared, fire erupting across the ground, rivers of molten rock tearing through the moon's crust. The silver sword cut the void itself, shining with a light that revealed every ship, every drone, every watching eye. For the first time, the galaxy saw itself reflected in the truth of the blade, and many feared what they saw. A fleet commander gave the order desperate: all ships fire. Beams of light and plasma rained down like the wrath of gods. Daniel roared, swinging the swords. The fire blade devoured the blasts, turning them to ash. The storm blade struck back, bolts of lightning leaping from ship to ship. The truth blade sliced through their shields as if they were paper. Ships shattered, torn apart by forces they had never prepared for. The aliens cried out across the stars, unable to believe one man could break their armadas. But Daniel's body faltered. Blood dripped from his mouth, glowing faint with the same fire as the swords. His knees buckled, his skin burned with cracks of light. Saris rushed forward, catching his arm, though she was barely strong enough to stand. "Stop, Daniel. You will die if you keep holding them." He looked at her golden eyes, fierce and desperate. "I cannot stop. Not until they understand. Not until they fear trying this again." The ground beneath them split wide, the tomb crumbling into nothing. Daniel dragged himself upright, holding Saris close with one arm and the swords with the other. The fleets circled again, forming walls of steel and fire, but none dared approach too near. They had seen enough to know he was not like them. He was human. Saris pressed her trembling hand against his chest. "You are burning inside. The swords will not let go until you give them a command. You must choose their purpose, or they will consume you." Daniel's vision blurred, stars spinning above him. He saw the fleets, thousands strong, ready to strike again. He saw Saris, her face pale but alive, watching him with trust. He saw Earth in his memory, his fallen friends. His truth was clear. He raised the silver sword high, his voice cutting through the silence. "I command you not for myself, but for freedom." The blades screamed their power, shaking the entire moon. The red flame roared upward, a wall of fire across the sky. The blue storm spread across the fleet's, chains of lightning ripping through weapons but leaving their crews alive. The silver light blazed outward, showing every commander their own fear and greed. And one by one the fleets turned their ships away. The galaxy had seen enough. The human had passed the trial, and the swords, for the first time in centuries, bent to a will not of gods but of man. Daniel collapsed to his knees. Saris catching him, her arms tight around his broken frame. The three swords floated in the air above him, glowing softer. Their voices silent, as if resting. Saris whispered in awe. "You gave them purpose. You chose freedom, and they obeyed." Daniel's eyes closed, faint, but his lips curved into a weary smile. For once, that is enough. But even as the fleets retreated, the ground of the moon cracked deeper, the tomb collapsing into the heart of the world. The swords were not finished, the trial was not yet over, and Saris realized with fear that the greatest choice was still ahead, the final sword and the truth. The moon groaned like a dying beast as cracks spread through its heart. The crystal tomb had fallen into ruin, and the surface split wider with each breath. Above, alien fleets still circled, silent, unwilling to fire again. They had seen the storm and flame and truth wielded by a single human. They had seen their weapons fail against him, and now they waited, afraid of what would come next. Daniel knelt on the broken stone, his body weak, his veins glowing with fire, storm and light. The three swords floated above him, humming louder with each heartbeat. Saris clung to his arm, her golden eyes wide, filled with fear and awe. "You cannot hold them forever," she whispered. "They will burn your soul until nothing remains. You must choose now, Daniel." Daniel's chest rose and fell heavy as mountains. His voice was rough but steady. "If I give them up, they will fall into the wrong hands. If I keep them, I will die. Either way, this ends here." Saris shook her head, tears slipping down her pale cheeks. "No, not like this. Not after you freed me. There must be another way." The swords pulsed brighter, as if impatient, their power shaking the broken ground. The red fire surged, promising destruction. The blue storm roared, demanding dominance. The silver light shimmered, showing him visions of himself standing as God above all species. The blades offered him everything but demanded everything in return. Daniel closed his eyes and saw Earth. He saw his comrades lost in forgotten wars. He saw children hiding in ruins waiting for someone to protect them. He saw Ceres beside him trembling but alive, free after centuries of chains. And he understood. The swords were never meant to be owned. They were meant to test. The trial was not about strength or soul or truth. It was about choice. He rose to his feet, every muscle breaking but his spirit unshaken. He gripped Ceres's hand, steadying her as much as himself. His eyes burned with light as he whispered, "I choose freedom, not power, not glory, only freedom." The sword screamed as if defying it, but then the red flame bent, lowering its fire. The blue storm calmed, its lightning fading. The silver light dimmed into a gentle glow. One by one they drifted down around him, circling like silent guardians. Then slowly they dissolved into streams of energy flowing into the cracked moon. The ground stopped shaking. The storm above faded. The curse was broken. Daniel collapsed forward, Ceres catching him, her arms trembling as she held his burned frame. His eyes barely opened, his lips curved faint. "It is done," he whispered. Ceres shook her head, her tears glowing like starlight. "No, it has only begun. You gave up power when you could have been God. You chose to remain human. That is what makes you greater than them all." Across the galaxy, silence spread. Fleets that had come to destroy now turned away. No alien dared speak against the one who had freed the cursed woman and ended the legend. They would remember. The galaxy would remember. That a human had done what no empire, no god, no species ever could. Ceres helped Daniel to his feet. Her body weak yet filled with strength she had long forgotten. The moon was quiet, the tomb gone, the swords no more, but in their place something greater remained. Hope. As their ship lifted from the ruined surface, Ceres looked back one last time, her voice soft, almost carried away by silence. "For centuries I was chained by fear, and yet you came with nothing but courage. No crown, no army, only your will. And that was enough." Daniel leaned against her, his eyes closing tired. "Humans are stubborn like that. We do not know when to quit." She smiled faint through her tears. "Then perhaps the galaxy should fear you more than the swords." The stars stretched before them, endless and waiting. Behind them, the legend of the cursed woman and her 3 swords ended. Ahead of them, the story of a human and an alien freed had only just begun, and across the galaxy, every spur carried the same words. No alien could touch the swords, but a human tried, and he succeeded. The end. Enjoyed the story? Like it and subscribe for more.